Hi, how you doing? It's been a few weeks. I was inspired to come on here today because it's my youngest son's 12th birthday. So he reminded me this morning, all excited, of an expression of self, how I don't think I put that right, but he was so excited about his birthday. He's very much my son that way because I take my whole month and he does too. He's been telling us about his birthday since the 1st. Well, actually, technically in his case, since January. But he was just so happy that he might actually get me to bring him to the bumper cars in an arcade, which is fine because as much as that sounds not fun for me right now, it's usually when I push myself out of my comfort zone and engage in behaviors that I would think otherwise that, this really doesn't appeal to me. I usually end up having the best of times, which is good because that gives me another thing to put into my toolbox if I'm looking for a distraction or, on those rare occasions where it's like, what can I do that would be fun or what, well, maybe bumper cars. I don't know. We'll see. I'm holding hope. In any case, I wanted to talk a little bit about a little bit more about balance. I know it's kind of a played out topic, but it really isn't because true happiness in life really comes down to our balance of energy. Are we balanced with our finances? Are we balanced with our relationships? Are we balanced with our careers? Are we balanced just with our own sense of self, right? All of those things make an impact on how we perceive our lives. If something's out of balance, it's an indication that something needs to be adjusted, right? We need to adjust something. So it's important to pay attention to those things. When you think of things that you're investing your energy into, whether it be people, places, things, or even internally, how I'm investing energy into myself. What are the thoughts that I say to myself about myself? And oftentimes we don't even know unless we spend the time to pay attention. How do I feel right now? What are the different ways that I can gain mindfulness, right? I'm going to share a little example with you. I remember one time I was driving into work. I was working up in Gardner at the time, and I used to take this route, or route, depending on where you are in the world, which was very scenic, and it was my favorite time of the year. It was fall. There was beautiful foliage everywhere. It was gorgeous. And I'm driving, and all of a sudden I had like a pain right here. Now, for me, that's an indication that I'm clenching my jaw. I really only clench my jaw when I'm in distress. Now, distress can mean a couple of things. Am I physically in distress? Do I have a pain somewhere in my body and that I'm clenching to subconsciously distract from? I don't know. Or is it more my thoughts? For me, it's usually more my thoughts, just saying. But I'm just kind of highlighting how we come to those conclusions. How do we figure out these little things about ourselves so that we can come to the point of turning it around faster as it happens moving forward, okay? So in this case, I did a body scan, head to toe. Am I in pain anywhere? No, I wasn't in any pain. And then I spent a little time with my thoughts, which should have been the first indication, because usually we avoid the thing that we don't want to deal with, right? So I was perseverating on a meeting that I had to have with the state later in the day that I didn't quite feel prepared for in the moment, but that's okay because I was driving into work and I didn't have my notes with me. It wasn't something that I could focus on in the moment anyway. It was just me worrying, right? So perfect example of how worry does not serve us. It's a distraction. It kept me from enjoying the scenery. It gave me pain. It did all of these negative things, and I still didn't come to any resolution with it, in the sense that, yeah, I worried, but I still didn't feel any more prepared, because I then was able to kind of look at it and say, well, when I get into the office, I can look over my notes and prepare myself a little bit more. I can maybe talk to my supervisor. I can look at things from a different perspective once I have access to the information, right? Which I didn't have in my car. And even if I did, I don't suggest reading and driving, even though I have seen people do that on the highway. Don't recommend it. So in an effort to relax myself, because you're limited if you're behind a wheel, right? I put on some classical music. I have very eclectic taste when it comes to music, and that's one of the genres that I like. So I put on some classical music. I deliberately focused on my scenery, because it was, again, it was so beautiful. I challenged the thoughts as they were in my head and pushed back where I could delay it and say, listen, there's nothing I can do about that right here and right now. I can deal with it when I get in the office. Make it my first priority if I need to. And then I did some breathing. And one of the things I like to do when I do some breathing to help with regulating my emotions is I also do visualization. So as I do deep diaphragmatic breathing, I breathe in, I envision that I'm breathing in, and just an FYI, you can substitute any color that you want. For me, I associate white with purity, okay? So when I'm breathing in, I visualize that I'm breathing in this like beautiful white luminescent light, right? And then I almost visualize it going right down to my toes, and like a wave where it just kind of pushes out and comes back up and goes out of my mouth as I breathe out. What I'm breathing out is that like black smog, right? Again, you can substitute anything. Some people, they don't like to use the light. They use more emotion, or they visualize something else. It really depends on what works for you, because all of our brains work differently. And the goal is to figure out, how does my brain work, and how do I make it work for me, right? So sometimes I can do that, and by like the third breath, I'm breathing out the same color light that I'm breathing in. Other times, it might take 10 breaths, depending on how distressed I am in the moment. This is a really cool skill, because you could be in a room full of people and nobody's going to know you're doing it unless you're really overt about it. You know, like, you don't have to be animated with it. You can do it a little less, obviously, right? So in the car, it didn't matter. No one was around. So I did that, listened to the music, paid attention to my environment, and challenged those thoughts that were plaguing me in the moment, okay? So for me, that worked. And then within a couple of minutes, the pain went away, because I stopped clenching my teeth too. That was the other big thing, is I had to mindfully stop doing that. Just an example of ways, once we realize that we're engaging in a particular behavior that's not serving us, how can we kind of get out of that, right? So that we can get grounded and be more present and be more effective in the moment. Because sometimes these things happen when we're in the middle of doing something else, because our mind is wandering, especially if we're doing a repetitive type behavior and our mind starts wandering. It's also important to pay attention to where it's wandering to. If it's wandering to a place that makes us feel good, as long as it's not making us unsafe, depending on what it is we're engaging in, then it's nice to kind of leave ourselves there. You know, if I'm driving into work and I start fantasizing about And I don't mean that inappropriately, but I'm just saying, like, I start daydreaming, if you will, about something that makes me feel good, you know? Like when I was in grad school, I used to, when I would work out, I would literally fantasize about graduation because I wanted done so bad. Literally. So again, it's, where's my mind taking me? Is it taking me in a place that's making me feel good? Okay, so that's just one aspect. It's one way that mindfulness serves us. Back to the balance is that balance of energy. If you think of different forms of energy, there's what we invest our time into. Is it making us feel good? Okay, and no, we're not going to feel good all the time. If you think of an occupation or a career, right? Regardless of how passionate we may be about it, there's going to be aspects about it that are going to be work. It's called work for a reason. In my case, in my field, as much as I love what I do, I loathe taking notes. I hate doing it. I used to love writing, but I don't like writing about people in a way that just clinicalizes them. And I don't know if that's an actual word, but I like to make things up that make sense. Because you get the point, right? I don't like to treat people like that. And even though it's expected in my field, and I get why it has to be done, it's you know, to be safe, that you're not doing certain interventions with people that aren't going to serve them, that you can't justify, right? So I understand the need for notes. I just don't like doing it. And I don't know too many clinicians who do, quite truthfully. In fact, I don't know any. I'm sure there are some out there, but I loathe it myself. So that aspect of my job, my career, my occupation is not a pleasant one, but a necessary one, right? Everybody's going to have some aspect of what you're investing your time into. If it's a relationship, maybe it's wonderful, it makes you feel good overall, but there's certain things that you two may struggle with. And a relationship doesn't have to be like a married type relationship. It could be siblings, it could be family, it could just be friends. I don't want to say just, because friends are very important. But the balance is in that reciprocity, right? Am I leaving things in flow? Am I paying attention, whether it's to another person and their needs, while also paying attention to myself and my needs, right? Because when we talk about flow, we don't want to be clingy, okay? We see this play out a lot of times in relationships, but it can be also with other types of energy like money. If we're so afraid of losing money that we never spend it, right? That we just hoard it away, we're not opening ourselves up to receiving more or to keeping it in flow in a natural, organic type of way, I should say. That doesn't mean you won't make more money, but you probably won't make as much as you could if you were less clingy about it, right? Because clingy is fear. And it teaches us something about an aspect of ourselves that maybe needs some healing, purging and healing. Okay, so these are just some examples of things to pay attention to. If you are dating someone new and you just really love that feeling that they bring into your life, that you get so clingy. Oftentimes when we're clingy with anything, whether it be a relationship, a job, anything, it falls through our fingers because it can be too constricting and it doesn't leave room for flow. That ebb and flow in life is so important. And there's another level to that when you're dealing with relationships, because you need to know and listen to what your partner needs or what the other person needs. But never to the point where you devalue yourself, or to the point where you put your own needs first and you're not paying attention, right? But that plays out again, even in our jobs or other aspects in our lives. If you are taking on a new behavior, like say you join a new gym and you love it so much that you're going 6-7 days a week, well, eventually you're going to get tired of it. Or it might even bring up other things in your head like, oh, I skipped one day, now I'm lazy, and now I'm going to start associating the gym with negative feelings so that I might avoid it altogether. These are all cognitive distortions that happen within ourselves based on the energy we're holding towards it. If I'm clinging on to it and pushing myself too hard, chances are I'm going to end up not enjoying it anyway, or pushing it away, especially if it's another person. It's important to just have that balance in engagement and detachment, and not from a form of manipulation, okay? You see that sometimes with people. It's like, well, I'm not going to talk to them for 5 days and see if they miss me. That can go either really good for you or bad, but at the same time, it's not healthy. Being honest is healthy. Having that ability to ebb and flow, to have that engagement and detachment, not again from a form of manipulation, but from a form of being stable and balanced on your own. Okay? Same thing goes with behaviors, thinking. If I'm overthinking something, I'm going to overthink it to the point of zero action. Or impulsive action, right? Because there's always like two sides to everything. So the balance is somewhere in the middle. I always say this, I don't like extremes of any kind. I'm very much a happy medium person, whether that's temperature. I don't like it too hot. I don't like it too cold. Whether that's politics, I don't like it too right. I don't like it too left. We can think of so many different things where balance is needed and there's a happy medium. Okay, and I think most people like to strive for the happy medium. So this video was more about ways to find that for yourself. It's paying attention to, how do I feel? Where do I notice it first? Do I feel it in my heart space? Am I feeling sad for some reason, or frustrated or something? Or do I feel it in my body, like in my case where I had the pain in the head because of the clenching? Because it all is connected. Mind, body, spirit. Thoughts, physicality, emotions. Okay? What impacts one always affects the other two. Always. No exception. Just because you don't notice it doesn't mean it's not happening. This is why chronic stress can breed illness. Not because there's a direct causation in the sense, like, oh, I was stressed, therefore I ended up with diabetes. No. But stress, chronic stress, because actually acute stress is healthy for us on occasion. But chronic stress, well, that's a whole nother story. It diminishes our immune system. It does have a direct impact, but how that plays out from person to person is going to be very different. Some people, they end up with cardiac issues. Other people, they end up with other things. I'm not even going to get into that. Because again, it's not about, I'm not sitting here telling you that if you don't manage your stress, you're going to die. No. But part of managing our stress is self-love. Part of managing the boundaries and the balance that's required within the relationships that we have, whether that be with people, working, money management, all of those things can either build resilience for us or break us down. So pay attention. I can't stress that enough. And none of us do it all the time, and we all find things here and there. So this isn't about shaming or blaming or anything like that. Once you realize something, it's not about saying, well, it's because you kept me like this, or you did. You know what? It takes two to tango and everything. You and whatever else that you're investing into. So pay attention, because at the end of the day, it's through your own accountability that any kind of change is going to take place. Hopefully for the positive. All right. So with that being said, I have a 12-year-old that I have to go tend to and possibly take to the arcade. Yes. I'm kidding. I'll probably end up having the time of my life. If I know me, that's probably the case. So, love my boys. I'll have a good time with them. And it'll be inside, away from humidity and heat. So that works for me too. So have a great day. I hope you have happy summer if you happen to be in my neck of the woods where it's summertime, summer vacation and all, or a happy winter wherever you may be in the world as well. Okay. Enjoy. Thank you for your time. And I hope to talk to you again soon. All right. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Okay. I am more than happy to answer any comments or emails or anything like that. We're all just trying to find our way, and I'm just here to try and help. Okay? So have a great one. Have a happy Tuesday. Have a taco on me. And I'll talk to you soon. All right.